I won $2.5 million in the lottery. But when I refused to give half to my parents' beloved daughter, they burned what they thought was my check. I laughed as their plan went up in flames. They had no idea I had already moved the money, and that was just the start of my revenge. Hey, Reddit. My name is Elise Turner. I'm 28, and until a few months ago, I was the quiet, overlooked daughter in a family that revolved around my younger sister, Natalie. She was always the favorite straight A's, daddy's little girl. Me? I was the backup, the one who picked up the pieces but rarely received any appreciation. I've worked since I was 16, saving every penny. I never expected much. After college, I took a job as a receptionist at a dental office while studying part-time for a business degree. My parents hardly noticed. Natalie received a new car for graduating high school. I got a polite nod for finishing my MBA with honors. But I kept my head down, accustomed to being ignored. Then everything changed one day, when I stopped at a gas station after work and impulsively bought a lottery ticket. I scratched it in my car. $2.5 million. I stared at the ticket in disbelief, my heart racing. The next day, I went to the lottery office, confirmed my win, and opted for the lump sum about $1.6 million after taxes. It felt like the universe finally acknowledged me. For the first time, I had options. Of course, I didn't tell anyone right away. I wanted to be smart. I consulted a financial advisor, set up a trust, and opened a private account. Everything was handled carefully and legally. I had no debts, no kids, and no partner, just a future to build. After 2 weeks of planning, I finally revealed my win to my family over dinner, hoping they'd be happy for me. I was wrong. The moment I said lottery, my mother's fork clinked against her plate. My father sat up straighter. Natalie's eyes sparkled with a kind of delight I recognized immediately, not happiness for me, but greed. Mom spoke first. Well, honey, you know your sister has been struggling since her last breakup. She really could use the help right now. Dad added, exactly. Family shares their blessings. It's only fair you give her a good portion. Maybe half. I blinked, stunned. Half of my winnings. Just like that? Natalie didn't even bother to hide her entitlement. She shrugged and said, yeah, that seems fair. You don't have student debt or a mortgage. What do you even need it for? That was the moment I realized they didn't see me, not really. To them, I was just a means to an end. I calmly put down my fork and said, I'm not giving half to anyone. This money is mine. I've worked hard all my life, and I'm going to use it to build my future. I'm not obligated to give anything to anyone. The silence was heavy. Then Mom laughed. Oh, Elise, don't be ridiculous. You're being selfish. Dad nodded in agreement. Ungrateful, even. After everything we've done for you. I left the table without finishing my meal, my hands shaking. But I didn't cry, not this time. The next day, things escalated. I woke up to smoke, not a fire, but something burning in the backyard. I ran outside in my pajamas and stopped cold at the sight of my parents and Natalie standing around a small metal barrel. Flames flickered inside. My father held what looked like a folded paper, the edges blackening in the heat. What are you doing? I shouted. Mom turned to me with a smug look. If you won't share, you won't get a penny. We burned the check. You won't see a cent now. Natalie actually laughed, arms crossed like a smug villain. I stared at the ashes in the barrel and burst out laughing, not from joy, but disbelief. My laughter caught them off guard. They stared at me like I had lost my mind. I took a deep breath. You really thought I'd leave the check lying around? That was a ceremonial copy. The real payment was wired to my private account 2 weeks ago. I've already moved most of it to investments. They looked like I had slapped them. Natalie's smile vanished. Mom's mouth fell open. Dad looked like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. You didn't just burn my future, I said. You proved everything I've ever felt growing up, that I was never your daughter, just a means to an end. I walked back inside, locked my bedroom door, and cried, not for the money, but for the confirmation that I never really had a family. Not one that saw me as a person worthy of love without strings attached. That night, I packed a suitcase without hesitation. I booked a hotel in another city and called a real estate agent the next morning. I never went back home. But that wasn't the end. A week later, Natalie started texting, then Mom, then Dad. At first, it was apologies, then guilt-tripping, then threats. When I didn't respond, they showed up at my new apartment complex one afternoon. I watched from the window as my father pounded on the door, yelling my name. The police escorted them off the property, and I thought that would finally be the end of it. But I was wrong. 3 weeks later, I received a legal notice in the mail. Apparently, my parents were suing me for emotional distress and claiming financial support they said I promised when I told them about my lottery win. I sat on the kitchen counter in my new apartment, coffee growing cold in my hand, reading the letter over and over, as if the words might change. I nearly laughed again, but this time, there was no humor, just exhaustion. I hadn't spoken to them since they burned what they thought was my lottery check. I changed my number, blocked every email, and told the doorman at my new building not to let anyone in unless they were on a specific list. Still, they found a way to reach me. I forwarded the letter to my lawyer, Simon, a calm, unshakable man who had handled all my trust and investment paperwork. His reply was immediate: don't worry, you're fully protected. This is a desperate move. We'll shut it down. I believed him, but I didn't feel safe, not really. This wasn't just about legalities. It was about being betrayed by the people who raised me. It confirmed my worst fears, that I was only valuable to them when I had something they wanted. A week later, we had our first court appearance. I showed up in a dark blue suit, hair tied back, makeup minimal. Natalie strutted in behind our parents, wearing heels that screamed for attention and a dress far too short for a courtroom. My mother managed a tight, fake smile. My father didn't look at me at all. They had no case, of course. They stumbled through vague claims, referencing conversations that never happened. My mother cried on the stand, and my father took jabs about how I wouldn't have made anything of myself without their support. Natalie smirked the entire time, arms crossed, as if waiting for someone to hand her a check once court adjourned. My lawyer tore through their lies effortlessly. Within an hour, the judge dismissed the case, warning them that any further attempts could lead to sanctions. I should have felt triumphant, but I didn't. Winning didn't undo the damage. I left the courthouse in silence, tears stinging my eyes. Simon offered to take me out for lunch to celebrate, but I declined. I just wanted to go home and sit in the quiet. That night, I turned my phone back on. Dozens of voicemails flooded in, some from old high school friends who suddenly remembered me, others from Natalie's friends trying to guilt-trip me on her behalf. But the worst were the messages from my mom. She didn't apologize, not once. She begged me to be reasonable and remember that Natalie needed help more than I did. At one point, she even said, "We brought you into this world. We're entitled to what's ours." That was the last straw. The next day, I sat down and wrote a letter, not an email, not a text, but a real handwritten letter with every word chosen like a knife. "Dear Mom and Dad, this is the last time I will communicate with either of you. I gave you every chance to be happy for me, to celebrate my success. Instead, you tried to take it. You demanded I give half my winnings to Natalie, as if I owed her my success. You burned a fake check, thinking it would ruin me. And when that failed, you took me to court. You didn't just betray me for money, you proved that you never truly valued me as your daughter. You only saw me as a source of support, someone quiet, compliant, and disposable. That ends now. I am cutting ties permanently. I've changed my number, my address, and my life. You are not welcome in it. Any further attempts to contact me will go through legal channels. And Natalie, if you're reading this, you once told me I'd never be more than a footnote in your fabulous life. I believed you then. I don't anymore. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your bank. I'm not your family. I'm free." I dropped it in the mailbox, feeling a sense of finality I didn't know I was capable of. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled. Life began to change after that. Slowly and quietly, I joined a co-working space and started a small consulting business. Nothing flashy, just something that gave me purpose again. I met people who didn't know me as the girl with the golden sister, just Elisa, smart, driven woman with ideas and confidence. I even adopted a rescue dog named Scout. She has mismatched ears, a loud bark, and follows me around like I'm the only person in the universe worth knowing. Maybe to her, I am. And perhaps that's enough. Every now and then, the past creeps in. I'll hear a song from my childhood or smell a dish my mom used to make. For a moment, I feel that familiar ache, not for the people themselves, but for the idea of them, the parents I wished I had, the sister I hoped might one day be proud of me. But those were just shadows. The real people showed me who they were, and I believed them. Now I live in a modest yet beautiful home by the coast. I invested wisely. I don't live extravagantly, but I live freely. I work when I want, travel when I choose, and no one decides for me anymore. I don't need revenge or to prove anything. My success is proof enough. And the best part? The real victory wasn't the lottery. It was walking away from a life where I was never seen, and finally stepping into one where I can be myself. Elise Turner, lottery winner, survivor, and finally my own person. Some wins come with numbers and headlines, but mine came in quiet defiance, when I stopped begging to be seen and chose myself instead. They thought they could destroy me with fire, but all they did was burn the last bridge I was willing to cross. Now I build my own path, and every step forward is mine alone.